Alrighty, so part 3, which should be the final part. These are the last few couple movies. You can see there's 32. We just added one more, but it'll be these last bit that we're talking about. So from the beginning is Mandrake, which is, I think, a foreign film.
Yeah, I think it's foreign film, but it's a Shudder exclusive.
Yeah, a lot of these were Shudder exclusive that we just decided to get Shudder in October to check out. Kind of like a folklore kind of thing. It seems like Scottish folklore or like
folklore.
yeah. I wouldn't really say culty, just very witchy.
Not really a cult vibe.
I don't remember much, honestly, because it just kind of was so flat. But
it has a cool cop story with the lady that they try to set up with her and her ex-husband. They really care about this town, and so you really care about them a little bit because they have a son. There's a little drama with the whole living arrangement because it seems like the mom is kind of like
cares more about her work.
Yeah, she's like kind of a workaholic, which is fine, but it kind of seems like to the detriment of her son a little bit.
Well, but it's also, I don't know, to me, it just felt kind of, just, like the pacing felt so odd, and it was just kind of like, it just gets to a point where you're like, oh, okay, I guess this is like the turning point of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, like witch stuff's happening, you're like, what?
I agree.
And even like the monster, the Mandrake on the cover is just, falls so flat. There's a point in the movie where, I think even you said it, where if you've watched The Village, it almost feels like The Village.
It did feel like The Village a little.
And only towards the end was it like, oh, okay, it's actual supernatural witch stuff.
Well, but another part of it was, so they had the supernatural element of, like, she had to go get the Mandrake baby, which was kind of cool, a cool scene where she's, like, being forced to do it, and she's already been injured. And the witch uses that to make like a potion kind of thing.
Yeah, to like reverse diseases and.
Yeah, but then there's this whole other side where you think there's this huge Mandrake monster, but it's just her son dressed up.
Yeah.
And so when they reveal that it's just the son, it's kind of like.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, I thought it'd be like an actual Mandrake parent or something.
In the trailer for it makes you think it is. So I was like kind of excited to watch this, and then it did fall pretty flat.
And
it was kind of sad because, two little children died in the woods, and I thought that was really sad.
Yeah.
And I love true crime, so I like the true crime side of how they were, like, trying to figure out why the two kids got killed and another man goes missing in the woods, and they're connecting it to a lady who just got released from prison, and I can't remember her story.
She's the witch.
No, I can't remember.
They called her, like, Bloody Mary because they were, like...
kill her husband or something? What was her deal?
Well, they said like her husband was like abusing her or something, or like her boyfriend.
Oh, cause she.
But she, yeah, and then like had like, something happened where her abusive husband was killed. But it is also like, I don't know what the laws are like in those countries, but if someone was like guilty of murdering a spouse. I mean, well, it almost was kind of reminding me like the Gypsy Rose thing a little bit.
Yeah.
But
well, she came back to the town and everyone knew who she was.
Yeah, well, and then, like, she sets up bear traps on her driveway, and they're like, well, technically, you were on her land, and it's like, I don't think in any world, even if it's your driveway, you could, like, legally get away with just putting bear traps on your driveway.
Yeah, it's iffy, for sure.
But,
the people in the town basically pin it on her, and it was her.
Yeah.
But then they kind of, like, do this thing where the parents of the kids who got killed, I think they were brother and sister, right?
Or something, I don't know. Oh, yeah, the kids, yeah. But it annoys me because there's not even a semblance of, like, oh, is it, like, mob justice and they're wrong? No, immediately they're like, it's her. Yeah. She's the witch. And I'm like, okay, well, now that surprise falls flat.
I thought they were going to do, like, a reversal where she's, like, actually a good witch because she heals that lady. And you're thinking... oh, maybe it's like she's trying to appease this Mandrake monster that's actually doing shit, but she's actually good. I thought they were going to do something like that, but that's not what they did.
I guess it just fell flat as like, oh, another witch story. Yeah. And it just didn't feel like there were any surprises.
No surprises, but it was tense when the husband gets killed.
Yeah.
And then she's got to go in and save her son after he's already been grabbed by the Bloody
Yeah.
Mary. But yeah, I don't think it's not very scary. I would not call it scary.
Well, and they kind of do the annoying ending where it's like ambiguous, like, oh, is she now crazy?
Yeah.
To heal her son's asthma, would she kill a baby?
I know.
And you're like, she's just jumping through logic that much.
She's literally a social worker that sacrificed her life for others.
Yeah.
I think she would actually kill a child to do.
I was just like, I mean, I'm sure they can make certain machines for people with asthma where she's not using anything for her son. So I'm like, maybe go have your son go to the doctor and get some whatever.
I think asthma's one of those weird ones where it's like there's certain days in the year that's like really dangerous for people with asthma, and you can't really do anything.
Could be, but they also live in like a heavily wooded area where it's like maybe don't live there.
That's true. Cinematography, it was like it had a dark color palette that was kind of nice. The landscape was kind of cool, but it didn't do any like cool shots, or you know what I mean. There was no.
Yeah, there's the only cool shot I can think is the above shot of when they're in the Mandrake forest, digging the baby out in front of that tree.
Yeah, they did one like dreamy scene where it would look like what's that one movie with the?
Oh, Evil Dead.
Yeah, where she's like floating. I was
Yeah,
like, oh, that kind of cool.
yeah.
So maybe I'd give it like a 2 or a 3. It wasn't memorable. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's like not. Acting.
I thought it was good.
The Bloody Mary actress is really good.
Yeah. The main lady portrays well of like this
Her
worker.
ex-husband did a great job too.
Kid wasn't a bad actor really either.
Yeah, he didn't get too many scenes, but the one scene where he like kind of tricks the other mom to like where is he? It was kind of cute.
Yeah. 0. I didn't.
Maybe a 1 when we don't know the monster's like coming up behind people and.
Yeah. Before it gets deflated when you find out she's a human. Storyline to me was very standard.
Very standard.
Very normal.
And like you said, that pacing felt so awkward.
Yeah.
So if the monster had been real, I would have said 3 or 4. But the fact that it's an actual costume for a dude.
Yeah, and then the real antagonist is just a witch lady.
I say 2.5 at most.
Below average.
There is a little bit of gore because the main lady gets stuck in the bear trap and they rip it off her leg.
Right,
and then
okay.
She's got to heal, so maybe.
I'm just gonna give it a 1.
Yeah. It was kind of hard to sit through. It was a little.
I found it interesting at first, and then as it went on, I was like, okay. And then a little bit more interesting with the Mandrake baby and stuff, and I was like, okay, deflated.
Yeah. Maybe 2, 1.
Yeah. Being fair.
His house.
His house. Okay, so this is definitely one I'd rather talk about.
Yeah, this one I thought it was very good. I've been wanting to see
this is one that we've been putting off for years and years at a time. Basically about 2 immigrants seeking asylum. Yeah, refugees seeking asylum in Britain, London, from Sudan, I think, somewhere in Africa. And it's another movie where it's symbolic,
yes,
metaphorical, but definitely kind of is more show with the symbolism.
Yeah.
About guilt and assimilation, all that. Now, unfortunately, because right from the beginning, it's 2 parents and their kid died on their way across the seas. And so they move into this horrific ghetto house in London.
Wait, and there's a funny quip that everyone always says about this house, because it's kind of a shithole rundown, but everyone acts like, wow, you get to have this.
Yeah, it's a rundown house, but it's like a semi-large 2-story house.
Yeah.
And every social worker every social worker they show is like a white guy, is like, better than my house.
So like it's like this whole like feeling of like you should be appreciative no matter what it is.
Yeah,
I think they were.
Yeah, and they hit you over the head with it because there's no power, no nothing, where the guy has to get the power going himself, but the white social workers keep hitting them over the head like you should be thankful you even get this.
Yeah.
And then so they are, and as gross as it is, they're like, hey, at least we're still like we're in the land of opportunity.
Yeah.
in London and we can start anew. And then you see how the husband is very quick to assimilate into British culture and wants to fit in, but his wife is like willing to fit in, but not willing to just forget where they came from and their culture.
Yeah, and I really liked how they did the two scenes of the one day where the husband went out by himself and he went to like go buy tools, go to the bar.
Yeah, and he's like getting along with everyone, and
he's getting along with everybody. Everybody's treating him really well. And then the wife goes out, I think the next day, and she is going to go to the doctor, I think. And she gets lost. It turns into like this creepy kind of like, where is she vibe, and people are rude to her. People who she thought would be nicer, people who are like,
Well, she goes up to she's scared until she sees a group of black kids.
Yeah.
And immediately is relieved because she feels some level of comfort.
Yeah.
To realize that they're racist as fuck or prejudice towards her and telling her to go back to Africa and stuff. And so she gets upset, obviously.
Yeah.
And so it's even that idea of like that thinking that you can find comfort just because it's like people who look like you, but they're actually completely different.
And when she goes to the doctor too, it's kind of like this weird like thing of the doctor's being really sweet to her, and this lady, the cultural differences between them, she's trying to communicate as well, but the way she's communicating is like kind of trauma dumping, I would say, but it's not really that. She's just like,
well, very very stern.
Yeah, stern, expressing how, and the doctor lady is just like, okay, that's not really, she doesn't say this, but she's like, that's not really how we talk to strangers here.
And then just doesn't talk.
Yeah, she's like very awkward.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it was really interesting to see the two cultures like communicating in that setting. And then it's just so funny to see the 2 days play out side by side, where the husband is, of course, he wants to assimilate because he's having a great time.
Well, and even he's like, we use forks and silverware, and she's like, but this is like African finger food, and he's like, well, we're not in Africa.
Yeah.
And
he's ready to like give up all I think at one point he burns all their stuff, but he's ready to give up everything. She obviously wants to keep stuff and keep the traditions and culture, and he's not wanting to do even that.
Well, and it's frustrating because like when they do try to complain to the social workers again are like, oh, sorry, you can't have a mansion or and it's just like, well, they shouldn't have to live in freaking disarray.
Yeah.
And because he starts punching holes in the walls because he hears something in the walls, because he starts going crazy, and their whole thing is alluding that the guilt of how they got to make it and a lot of people died, like is manifesting as this witch doctor from Africa, and he really starts seeing stuff and going crazy, whereas the wife is like, it just talks to me fine, and
it's not coming after her.
Yeah, and it really, it really is trying to get him. And they do, what I can appreciate for this movie up until kind of the end is that they do a good job of taking its time with the creepiness.
Yeah.
Where you're creeped out because they take their time to do like a shadow walking or an eyeball popping up in the wall and then moving, and you can hear someone scuttling in the walls, and just really good stuff. I mean, by the end it starts getting more and more intense. The whole thing is you find out it's latched onto him because their daughter is not really their daughter. They were trying to get on a bus, like a migrant bus or whatever, and so he found a random girl, because they said people with children only, so he found a random girl, kidnapped her, and basically took her, him and the wife took her to claim as their own, and then immediately, like, the rebels or whoever starts shooting up the place, so they escape just in time. And
the girl's mom is like running behind the like bus and can't make it, so it's kind of like this other.
And it sucks because it was like, the wife is like, I'll protect you, and you get this feeling like, well, at least they didn't get killed in the village. But then it was like, instead of dying in the village, a week later she dies.
But it's not like they viciously don't help her. After they kidnap her, granted they shouldn't have done that, they do seem to try to protect her and care for her.
Yeah, and the guy's even carrying her across the desert and stuff.
Yeah.
But the guilt is that they, because it's like the witch doctor hunts thieves and stuff, and so because he stole and lives with that guilt, it goes after them. And the movie does a good job of, you almost go like, it really is. What is it? Metaphysical? Is that what it is? Where you don't actually know if really anything actually happened, because even at the end, after he fights the witch doctor,
Yeah.
there's already a mat over the floor with a giant hell portal opened, where you're like, did that happen?
Well, yeah, because don't they put the mat down after that to hide it?
Well, but it like the scene cuts to like her like putting it down where it's already like covered, where you like maybe there's something there, but you could almost say that they like spilled something, or he like drilled a hole, whatever, and they're covering it, and so you're like, oh, okay. Even if the witch doctor was real, it was purely in the mind.
Yeah.
They do some cool, when he's eating alone in the kitchen and it zooms out and it's like a pool of dead bodies.
That looks so cool.
Yeah.
When he's like in the ocean, but he's like
yeah.
on his like cool.
I really hated that the witch doctor scene was cool when you only see its glowing eyes.
Yeah.
And at the end it's just your standard like white skinny ghoul looking monster, and I was like, God.
And because we had just watched the Boogeyman,
I know, it was just like it's the same damn ghoul.
Yeah.
And then in the end, it's like they overcame their grief and stuff, and they're like willing to stick it out and live in London and with this new culture without. Yeah. And then you can see the husband is like, okay, like, I won't run away and forget where we came from, but we can both like move forward.
Yeah.
And so I think it was a really well done movie. It's interesting where it's from the perspective of like, immigrants, because I can only imagine refugees and asylum seekers get treated like fucking awful in London, and I would assume in America.
I do want to say though, I feel like the movie felt more like moving when it was their actual daughter.
Yeah, so
reveal it's not their daughter. I'm like, why have y'all been saying that then?
Well, it's two things. It's I kind of get annoyed by how every single social worker was a huge racist. Because I was like, you're telling me not one is like actually like, even Matt Smith's social, like he was like, I'm trying to help you, but you could tell he kept making subtle kind of like racist implied jabs. And I was like, is there not one social worker that's at least like...
There was this other undertone with the social workers where it's like the Matt Smith guy, he said he was like something else, right?
Or he's like working two jobs or something?
No, he said he like had a job and he's like, and I couldn't make enough money, so now I'm doing this. So it kind of gave you this perspective of everyone that's supposed to help them doesn't want to help them because they're being forced to do their job. And it's not like in maybe some instances where it's an actual person who gives a shit about their job and these people.
Well, then going back to what you were saying, you really do feel like, oh my God, I kept going, what if like when they were crossing the ocean, he actually like to save himself killed his daughter or
even
something?
If it was on accident. If
yeah,
you're a parent
but then
do that, I can't imagine.
They get to this ultimate scene where it's like, she's not your daughter, and I was like, then why is the wife the whole movie being like, don't forget our daughter, you cannot forget our daughter? I'm like, you knew her for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I get the whole like an attachment to her after y'all are like doing this experience together. That's really horrific, but they're telling complete strangers that they had a daughter. You know what I mean? Like,
well, but the wife like gets so emotional. I mean, I get it because it's like a kid that wasn't your care, but I mean, she's like, how dare you forget our daughter? And it's just like,
I just even feel like the guilt aspect would probably be even more intense if it was their own child that they were unable to protect on this journey.
Yeah. Well, and I was even like, if you really wanted to make it crazy, you could have had it where maybe it's still not their daughter, but that they kidnapped her when she was like a baby.
Oh my God.
Well, because then you could have really been like, oh, damn, like they've lived with this guilt for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
I was thinking it was like in their moment of like adrenaline and fear for their own lives, maybe they like left behind their daughter. I thought that would be really horrific to try to like come to terms with. So maybe it was something like that, or I knew they showed the boats. I was like he said, what if he accidentally pushed her when he was trying to like save himself? And I think they do say when you're swimming and like someone else is drowning, sometimes the other person will drown who's trying to save them. So maybe I thought it was like that.
What's that thing where like they freak out and they like grab onto you and take you down with them?
So I was like, maybe even the daughter was trying to help him, and he, I didn't know. But as soon as they reveal that, I feel like some of the emotional impact kind of goes away. I also really like the one scene where they go kind of back in time, and it's like the wife is with her group of friends and her community, and I was like, oh wow, this is touching. Kind of seeing the community she came from, and now she's in this new community that is nothing like it. But then you also get to see the horrors of that world that they were living in, like.
Yeah, because there's that where they're just laying down on the roof of some building while these group of men just shoot down everyone that they see.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, Jesus.
It's very horrific.
God. But it sucks because like there's like people walking outside their house like peeing on the walls in London. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
And just weird. Like the neighbor who's just like, you won't last, and she's like, why don't you just go home? It's like, Jesus Christ, why are you so mean?
These social workers that are so ready to like send you back because they don't want you here.
Yeah, they're just looking for an excuse.
Yeah. And people who are like in this country having problems, but then they're putting these problems onto these immigrants and refugees when it's like, maybe it's not on them, but
But it is sad because like the husband clearly shows he's very good at like electrical work and and he's like so happy to be there that he's like, I'll do anything, any job, whatever. And so it's like
he's looking towards the future of like, we can have our family, we can do.
But in general, it's like, they don't like that he's a refugee or whatever. But he's clearly showing that like he like is so appreciative to be there that he's willing to do anything, like whatever is asked of him.
One other kind of like, I don't know, vibe from this movie that I didn't like is like they wanted to make the husband such a villain because he was being positive and kind of looking towards the future, and I kind of felt like the wife was like in a really dark place mentally, and she's like, no, we can't move forward. And I'm like, is that really a good message? You know what I mean? That I totally get, we need to keep our culture, we need to keep the past with us, but she was like not willing to like move forward mentally or anything.
Yeah, well, and because she had one bad experience, she was like, see,
I know,
point proven. And he's like, I mean, try to like.
Yeah.
Now,
I feel like there
now
should have been a middle ground where they're both on the wrong and they find a middle ground.
He just kept going, you go out and do whatever, but I think it would have been better if he would have been like, let's both go out.
Yes, yeah.
Because he just was like, do your own thing, you're fine.
Yeah.
And then they're like, here's a hand-drawn map.
I know.
And so it's like, maybe you should have gone with your wife and kind of talked it over.
He didn't have that problem, which was kind of funny. But yeah, so I didn't like how they were making him such a villain and they weren't critiquing her actions at all. And I was like, I feel like it should have haunted them both equally.
Yeah.
And like they found a middle ground of like.
Yeah, they definitely kept portraying him as the villain, and she's even like, the ghost told me you're a bad man.
Yeah.
And
he was like fixing the house. He was like trying to do something like better. He was like trying to help his wife even like be happy.
Well, and you can't blame him for the like being mean to the ghosts when they're scaring the shit out of him.
I know.
And like attacking him, but then they're nice to her.
Yeah.
And so it's like, bro, they're like literally like twisting his arms and stuff, like. And then she finds him and he like pissed himself because he's so scared. Cinematography, I would say, was a little bit above average. I think they did some unique shots.
I think so. I love the coloring of the movie. They made, and when I say love, I mean it's like they made the house look so like it's like own world of like the drabness.
And even doing the scenes of the lights on, lights off, and like the ghosts and stuff. Let's see, 4. Acting. Very well.
I think this is probably some of the best acting we've seen in any of the movies.
And that lady is interesting because we saw her in Lovecraft Country where she's speaking like American English.
Yeah.
And then this, she's like, got the African.
I don't know if the accent was, which one is fake.
Yeah. So I was like, wow.
She did really great.
And she's in Loki TV show. She was in Deadpool and Wolverine. So I'm like, oh, wow.
Also, the people who were bad guys were really good actors as well.
Yeah.
So.
Scares, I would say.
I thought it was pretty scary. Some of the stuff was very creepy.
I'd say, for me, it was pretty standard, but I liked how they did the shots. So, I'd say.
I feel like it should get points because of all of the like drama that was not even.
I mean, like I said,
related.
my only problem with really the story is the whole daughter not being the daughter.
Yeah, I don't like
3.5 would have been a 4 if it wasn't for that. Monster antagonist.
Before they show the whole thing.
Well, but it's also like I would include all the other ghosts he sees, but they're pretty generic. Kind of spooky with the tiki mask. 3, just with everything.
Is there any gore? Wait, well, I mean, there's like when they go to the past, there's a lot of shot people.
Yeah, and she stabs him in the leg with a screwdriver.
That's right.
1. Watchability, I'd say a 4.
I mean, I'd watch it again because I feel like there's probably stuff we missed.
Stop. Just trying to bite the cord. Where? What did I?
She's doing
Stop
her
it!
thing.
Stop! Get down! Oh my god.
Kiki.
So what was given a 5 for rewatchability? Possum. I would say this would be the same as Possum.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those that you could talk about and think about for a
Mhm.
while.
Well, but it's also, again, just like with Possum, I can watch it once, and I can make the choice to rewatch it, not because I feel like, I have to watch it again to understand it.
Yeah,
I understood it, but now I can comfortably watch it again because I want to.
And now you can watch it again knowing that it wasn't their daughter and see what different things we would take from it.
So the next movie is Sting. Was this Shudder?
I think this was Hulu, actually.
Hulu? Okay. I can't even remember why we picked this one, but if you've ever seen Eight-Legged Freaks, you could basically say that this is within the same universe. Almost. I mean, it's basically the same movie as Eight-Legged Freaks, just takes place in one building instead of a whole town. And instead of it being mutant spiders, it's an alien spider. But it's one of those. It definitely feels like a movie from like 2005,
Yeah,
2008. But it's such a simplistic thing where it's alien spider crashes through the window of this apartment complex, and this little girl captures it and starts realizing that it's not a regular alien, but it's like an apartment complex in New York, rundown. Her stepdad is like the maintenance guy. Her mom, does some kind of like marketing job or something, but the mom's like
they
grandma.
both have 2 jobs, I'm
Yeah.
sure, but it's like the mom's mother,
Like her,
sister.
yeah, the
is
mom's
the
aunt.
landlord.
Yeah, the mom's
So what is that? That's
aunt.
Okay, great aunt. Or something.
Something like that is the landlord, and so yeah, the stepdad is like an artist, and then is also the building mechanic, and then of course the landlord is a comically evil old woman who speaks German or whatever, and hates the stepdad, and
Yeah. There's a whole drama of this isn't the main little girl. She has a different father than the stepdad.
yeah, who ran away, but like writes them letters from Hawaii or Thailand or whatever.
And apparently he's been back in town.
Yeah, like
for
he's
a
like
while,
years,
yeah.
and actually lives like 5 minutes away.
And hasn't.
But the
taken
mom,
care of it.
yeah, but the mom can't bring it to her daughter to tell her that that. And there's also like a college weirdo Asian guy in the apartment that studies like liver, like fish liver, and
oh, there's like a depressed woman who's
who like lost and her husband, yeah, who drinks all the time, and she's the first to die.
And then there's the main girl's grandma, which is
who has like dementia or Alzheimer's.
She's low key kind of funny, and they set up bits with the bug exterminator guy. That's it's almost like a funny movie.
Yeah, well, like a quirky.
Yeah, it's like a quirky 2000s type.
And they do a lot of setup and payoffs, like the grandma with Alzheimer's knits the little girl a sweater, and she's like, "Ugh, it stinks. What's that smell?" And she's like, "It's because your grandma always has mothballs." And then you find out that the alien spider has a weakness to mothballs.
Yeah.
That's why it's not eating the grandma.
The grandma's like the most safe person in the whole apartment.
But all of her pets slowly get killed and eaten.
Yeah.
But then that's why you go, well, why is it not eating the grandma? It's because of that.
Yeah.
It's paced well enough. It's kind of stupid because in the beginning it shows you a later scene, and then it's like 3 days before this.
Oh,
and I was like, it was really unnecessary because it didn't do anything for me.
Even though it was unnecessary, I thought it was really funny.
It was funny, but
it sets up that the dementia grandma has been calling.
Random people,
to like get rid of the spider, and they're just like dying.
Yeah, and the spider design was pretty generic.
Yeah.
It just looked like a regular spider, which I was hoping, because it's an alien spider, that the whole thing is, the more it grows, the more it could like actually transform into something else.
Oh yeah.
Or like a more horrific looking spider.
And it had like paralyzing venom and acid webs.
Oh yeah, acid webs. That's right.
So,
and
it was cute. I thought it was really cute.
There are some parts where I was just like, like you can tell the stepdad is clearly trying to connect with his stepdaughter, and then the wife, it just keeps being like, you always push her away. I'm like, since when?
He's literally spending time with just
Yeah.
her to make her.
And then there was like I don't know, he like just got fired. A bunch of noises are happening. They're telling him to fix the TV, and he gets fucking electrocuted, and gets so mad, that he punches the TV, and they're like, "That's it." And she's like, "Listen, I don't know, like you're done, and I'm like, I mean, I'm not defending his actions,
I
but
don't disagree.
but at the same time, it's like
she's so hard on him and doesn't like.
that's what I'm saying. She's so overly hard on him, where it's like he's trying to do the comic book thing, like a second job, take care of the baby so that she can work in private, even though
Spend time
she
with the
never
little girl.
she never lets him work in private,
Yeah.
but she demands that from him.
Yeah.
And then she's always constantly criticizing him for not like being close enough with the stepdaughter, even though you see him try.
Yeah.
And then she tells him to fix the shit, and he gets fucking electrocuted, and then she screams at him, and she's like, "You're losing us." And I'm like, is this like a crazy world? Because like
I think she's overwhelmed too, because she's got the mother with dementia. You know what I mean? There's like a lot going on. You could understand how.
Yeah. Well, it just seemed a little insulting, like, just like, oh man, like you're gonna lose all of us because it's all 100% your fault. I'm like, bro.
The landlord lady's like basically like, oh
yeah, I don't like you.
You're a piece of shit.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make sure that you're like my granddaughter or whatever dumps you, and you're like, huh? Like, and then of course, at the end it's kind of like a cringe, like, Dad, and he's like, I love you. I was like, cringe. And of course they set up a trash compactor in the parking garage earlier. I was like, we're coming back to this. We're coming back to this 100%. Which it did look like they used a real giant spider puppet for that part. So that was pretty cool. It's weird. It was like a very generic monster movie, but I was entertained enough.
Yeah. I was scared because it was an apartment. There would be all these characters, and they were going to try to do too much. But I actually thought it was pretty...
Yeah, there's actually really no one living there.
Yeah, not really. And so I was like, are we about to see 50 character stories, and then they all get killed one by one? But it actually was really compacted. I thought it was good.
Yeah. Cinematography, again, to me was standard.
It was pretty standard. The only thing I would give it points for is it had that nostalgia, like 2000s kind of vibe.
I mean, besides the goofy aunt and the creepy Asian college kid, I thought everyone did a pretty good job. I mean, the Asian guy did a good job of being creepy. I just felt like it was a bit much.
Yeah, I think everybody did a pretty good job. I'm trying to think if anybody stood out as bad.
Scares. I didn't feel scared. It was more just like, oh.
It was tense.
Like, ooh.
When the spider takes like the dad, the mom, and the baby, I was like, oh. Shit.
Oh yeah, it takes the baby. That was pretty crazy.
I think middle of the road, honestly.
Very generic. Standard. I mean, it's just a big fucking... What makes me a little angry is that they establish it's an alien, and it just looks like a spider.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you should have literally had it where it's like somewhat unique looking instead of it just looking like a spider. I don't really remember there being too much gore. I mean, you see like the dead animals and some dead humans.
That one lady, the spider bites her somewhere. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, and then
horrific.
goes in her mouth and starts eating her from the inside.
That's right. Yeah.
I'd give it 3.
It's a fun watch. It's like one of those like you want a Halloween vibe, creepy spider vibe. Like I would not watch it, but I don't really.
This might just be a full straight 3s. Yep, full straight 3s. Okay.
Better than full straight 0s.
Yeah, that's very true. Next movie is Cronos, which was Guillermo del Toro's first movie. And it's in Spanish mostly with some English dialogue. It's basically a vampire movie, kinda. It doesn't necessarily allude that it's vampires. it just has vampire themes. And knowing Guillermo del Toro, who loves vampires, it makes sense. But it's basically that there was a philosopher guy or alchemist or whatever who created a device where he could live forever, but in order to do so, he had to basically like be a vampire and kill people and drink blood. And then, the device he used was put into a statue, and this nice old shopkeeper happens to find it. It accidentally uses it. When he notices he's getting younger and younger, he's like, oh, hey, maybe this isn't so bad. But then the side effects of craving blood and stuff, and then you find out there's like a uber rich guy who's been looking for it because he doesn't want to die. He wants to live forever, and he has the instructions on how to use it. But
Don't forget his lackey, Ron Perlman.
Oh yeah, his nephew, Ron Perlman, who speaks.
Just waiting for him to die, and there's also a reoccurring bit that Ron Perlman's gonna get a nose job.
Oh yeah. He's very insecure about his nose, and he speaks English and speaks Spanish, which I believe, from what I looked up, he doesn't speak Spanish, but he learned enough Spanish lines properly for the movie. And Guillermo just loved him so much that he was like, I'm going to put you in.
It's very noticeable that Ron Perlman is the only like non-Spanish.
Yeah, because everyone else speaks very, very good Spanish. I liked the main guy, the old guy, because it did feel like he's just this nice old man who stumbled upon
Sweet
something
grandpa.
and is like, oh God, I can't control it, because there's that scene where it's like the guy's bleeding in the bathroom and he just goes on the floor and starts licking blood off the floor, and you're like, ew.
I thought this was a good movie for somebody who wants to watch a Halloween adjacent movie, but they don't like scary stuff or gore, really.
Yeah, because like nothing really happens.
Yeah.
Like it's about like his journey of becoming a vampire or something.
The grossest you get is him licking the blood off the floor.
Yeah.
The scariest you get is him coming back from the dead looking like his makeup looks
like
crazy.
a ghoul.
Yeah, that's about it.
Because the whole thing is like they shed their original skin and become this like white skinned ghoul.
What is it? Do you remember what it was rated? Because it's almost like not for kids, but
Yeah,
like
it definitely would.
kid-appropriate.
Because I wouldn't say it's rated R. If it is, I'm shocked because it's very tame.
Yeah.
But it's it's more story based and like character interaction based than straight up just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was unique enough. Now, there's things they didn't explain, like the device itself is shaped like a scarab, and they said there's like a living bug inside of it, and it somehow helps with, you living forever, but that you almost like die and like are rebirthed. And so there's a lot where I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But interesting interactions, and he tries his best to, not kill his grandson and stuff, but in the end, he gets to go back home and burn alive and die in front of his wife. But I didn't hate it, but it's a very it didn't feel like a horror movie to me.
Didn't. That's what I'm saying. This is like good for Halloween adjacent. Like
it felt like a drama.
Yeah.
Where it's a drama where it happens to be like, oh, the drama, family drama of him becoming a vampire.
Yeah.
Because you even see where he's like addicted to using the scarab, and the grandson sees, and he's like, oh my God, like don't think lesser of me, whatever, blah blah blah. Thought that was.
I don't think the wife knows about it at all.
She does not, because especially when he comes back from the dead and calls, and she's like,
I know.
don't call back here.
Also, this movie has one of our favorite tropes, which is morgue and autopsy workers eating sandwiches.
Oh my
right
God,
next to
yeah.
The dead body.
Oh my God, it's constant.
When I say my favorite, I hate that so much.
Yeah. No, it was
It was almost comical in some scenes.
Yeah, like slapstick.
Yeah.
Especially the Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman is very slapstick in this movie.
Yeah. I did love I don't think they were sets, but the settings looked very beautiful.
Oh yeah, like the Spanish villa and stuff.
Well lit,
Yeah.
very beautiful. It looked like they went to a real place that had been lived in.
Yeah.
And didn't make something and it Like, it looked very good.
Now, obviously, since it was his first movie, because when I say, like, I prefer his other movies, this was obviously a start.
Yeah.
And you can see where the influences from this go into, because, like, there's a scene in this movie where you really get to see inside the scarab, and it's these golden gears, and it's really emphasizing them moving together. And all I could think is Hellboy, the Golden Army, when, again, he zooms in on a lot of the golden gears, and really, like, how that works, and even just, like, the idea of vampires that he did for Blade 2 and The Strain, and Pan's Labyrinth, and just, like, a lot of these, like, aspects where you can see, okay, he grew from this idea to other things.
Yeah.
It's weird. I feel very middle of the road about it.
I think the acting and the cinematography are above normal, but I think everything else is basically middle of the road.
I'd say Scares is like a 1.
Yeah, I mean,
Storyline,
it's just not scary.
I would say storyline is a little bit above average, like 3.5, because it was more of like, it didn't rely on like
A crazy thing is happening.
or like, you know, ew, like gore and you know,
Yeah,
it was just this sad story about this old man that becomes a vampire.
Yeah.
Wasn't really scary on that part.
Monster is that? I mean, the monster is Ron Perlman.
Oh yeah.
No, the monster is him when he comes back.
A
He
ghoul.
looks kind of gross.
Kind of gross, but not
It's not
scary.
crazy.
Good one.
The goriest thing is what, the blood?
Gory's thing is like, he's like ripping the scarab off or something out of his like skin, because it like puts its legs into his skin.
Oh, I forgot about that. In the front of the mirror. Yeah.
Do 1. This might be a 3 for me.
It's just not my type of movie.
Yeah, see, again, it's not my...
slow.
Yeah.
I think if like I said, somebody doesn't like scary stuff, but you like a vibe like this, it'd be more rewatchable.
Whoops.
What's next?
Yummy.
Oh, I was surprised by this one.
Yeah, so it was good, but I'm gonna have my complaints. But it's like a Dutch, like Scandinavian movie about zombies. Takes place in like a plastic surgery building. Turns out that, you know, they've been experimenting on ways to like make people look more younger and rejuvenated, all that. And basically a zombie outbreak gets loose. But like the setup is like a doofus guy, his girlfriend, who's got comically large boobs, and her mom, who's clearly into plastic surgery, are going there so that the girlfriend can get a breast reduction. And
the mom's getting like a facelift or something.
Yeah, and they obviously just keep emphasizing like, say goodbye to these, but it's like so obviously fake, because it's like this like 70-pound girl, and she's got the most comically large looking boobs, and so that's the setup. And then there's like a guy that they meet there who's a worker, and he's like constantly hitting on the girlfriend.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, it's kind of like, okay,
like evil. She's not a receptionist. She's like a nurse. The lady, the main evil lady.
Oh yeah.
She's like super evil.
And you know, the boyfriend and the weird guy, asshole guy, like stumble upon an area for him to kind of go cool down, because he like walks into the surgery room, is like, oh my god, no, you know, like kind of freaking out. And they happen to just go far enough into the damn hospital, and then they hear a noise, and there's a naked woman being tied down to a bed, and he takes her face mask off, and her like skin is gone, and she's able to rip off her restraints, and she's basically the first zombie. And you're kind of like, because later on the doctor's like, I had that specimen secured in the locked room. How did this happen? I'm like, you had her unguarded in an unlocked room, with an easy pull-off mask.
And it was in like the wing of the hospital that nobody was in.
Yeah. And so it was like you made it too easy.
Yeah.
But then, you know, the zombie gets out, and that's when he grabs his girlfriend's like, we gotta go. And then from there, it's basically, how do they escape the asylum, plastic surgery hospital?
They do a fake out where the boyfriend...
Yeah, it hits his head, and it starts bleeding out, so you think he's dead. And then the girlfriend is like immediately just like in love with the asshole guy, which is just something that really bugged.
Was there another reason why she was mad at him?
No.
Like, because he came back and then she acted weird towards him the whole time.
Well, she was like, you know, why are you freaking out? And he's like, because they're zombies.
He didn't kill her mom in that one scene when she turned a zombie. Did she start really being mean to him after that?
Yeah, it's just really weird because once she thinks he's dead, she immediately just moves on to the asshole guy who literally early in the movie told her how he like fucks a bunch of depressed girls that comes in.
Oh, yeah, true.
And she's immediately just like in love with him because she saves her and her mom. And so she's just like latched onto him and thinks of him as like this hero.
It is funny because the asshole guy is definitely more capable of this
More
survival,
capable, but it's
and
just
the other
like,
guy's kind of like a doofus
yeah,
a little bit.
but they just keep setting up this weird, annoying thing where
Yeah.
they've been together long enough where he wants to propose to her, and then she finds him alive, but then is like annoyed that he's like not immediately just willing to like kill zombies and act like a hard ass.
Yeah.
And so she's constantly like hugging up on the asshole guy and like checking in on him, but not her boyfriend, and just like leaving him
It's
behind.
very weird.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
you know, because of course towards the end she's like, "Oh, I love you, I'm sorry," but I'm like, you did a horrendous job with this couple because they don't even seem like they like each other. And she easily was like all over the asshole guy,
Yeah.
and would just kept like being hugging up on him, and you know, and yeah, she gets mad that her boyfriend can't kill her mom, and it's like, maybe,
Sorry, I can't kill
yeah,
you.
yeah, sorry I can't kill your zombie mom. Like I have emotions,
Yeah.
and
Also, they set up that he's a pussy because he's scared of blood.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I feel like everyone should be kind of grossed out by blood,
yeah,
but he kind of like faints when he sees it, and they totally rip on him for that.
yeah. You know, and they even do a good thing where it's like you find out that the doctor and his like donor lady were in on it together of creating the zombie thing. And so when the asshole guy figures it out, he's like, I'm going to tell the world what you did. And so she finds a room with a zombie strapped down, puts it next to the door, and she's like, help, help, asshole guy. And he runs in, and he's like, what? And then the zombie bites him.
Yeah, but then he turns
Yeah,
around
and kills her. Yeah, and then hides his bite. And then, like, the military comes and shoots anyone trying to escape.
which makes sense.
Yeah, which does make sense.
Also, there's a little lizard robot, or not?
Oh,
robot,
yeah.
zombie.
Yeah, because the doctor had, like, lizards and stuff, you know, like, encased.
cute.
And now they come back to life. And,
The boyfriend gets bit by that, and so they think he'll be a zombie, but
yeah,
for some
nothing
reason
ever
it
happens.
doesn't work.
You know, obviously good gore and, like, tense scenes. Reminded me a lot of the Day of the Dead remake, but that's, you know, very niche, but because it also takes place in a hospital.
Oh. This movie really made me think it does not take much to make an enjoyable zombie movie.
It doesn't.
Something about it is so, like, obviously primal, where it's like everyone understands this, and
Yeah.
it could happen
Well, you
anywhere,
just
and
make
be
every
fucked
scene
up
like,
by- yeah.
run to the next room, run to the next room,
Yeah.
run to the next room, and
It's like a survival movie. All zombie movies are like survival movie times 10. Like, you know.
well, it is interesting though because at one point the boyfriend knows how to make a bomb, and makes
Oh,
like a chemical
yeah.
bomb,
Yeah, he makes like a little bomb.
which comes into play later. I guess like with how they did it, I was like, okay, you could have it where they run away or something because the asshole guy and the girlfriend are escaping, and then the boyfriend is trapped in these underground tunnels.
He kind of sacrifices himself for her.
Yeah,
He doesn't know the other. They don't know the other guy got
Yeah.
bit yet.
and he definitely is just like, okay, you know, you guys go without me.
It's definitely a good scene to highlight that even though they're trying to make this guy seem like a pussy, he's brave enough to sacrifice himself because
Yeah.
he knew he got bit, even though his didn't matter. But
Yeah.
the other guy was too pussy
Yeah.
to do that. So.
Well, but then it also just shows you like the girlfriend is just such a fucking dumbass
yeah.
for being so mean to her boyfriend, even though he's like, I'm willing to die to ensure you're safe.
Doesn't something weird happen too, where right before she's about to leave, he like gives her the ring and she's like, "No, not here" or something? Isn't something like that happen?
Well, yeah, I mean, he basically pulls out the ring, and she's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" She's like, "You're an idiot," and then just walks off.
Yeah. I was like, he's about to die. Maybe be a little
Yeah.
nicer.
Yeah, I
don't
was
know.
just, I get it, it's bad timing, but it's like, I just didn't believe them as a couple because in the beginning, sure,
She was so pissed
Yeah.
at him.
in the
like,
beginning, sure, they're all over each other and calling each other Pookie Bear or whatever, but immediately it just turns into she's like hates him,
Yeah.
cannot stand him, while he's like, why are you so mad at me?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a really weird turn. And then yeah, at the end, you know, it's just kind of like to me, it's just kind of an eye roll because he launches the bomb and is able to escape.
Okay, yeah.
She's in the car, driving away by herself. He stumbles upon the road and is trying to tell her to stop, but he can't. So she thinks it's a zombie, runs him over, realizes it's her boyfriend, freaks out, crashes, and dies.
Yeah.
And it's just the end. And I was like, this seemed cheap a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like we didn't know how to end the movie, so let's just end it in 1 minute of the most, like...
They're both dead now. Yeah.
You know, just... Like, you could have had it where it's set up where he was bitten by that lizard thing, and it's like, he's not infected. Like, he doesn't turn into a zombie, but he's like a carrier.
Yeah.
Or something.
Cool. Yeah.
You know, and set up something, like a fake sequel bait. I don't know, something. I mean, it was a fun movie, but I was annoyed by the weird, like, the setup for how, you know, like, it has to be a plastic surgery hospital, and then the main girl has to have comically huge, large boobs for no reason, and the doofus boyfriend, and, you know, I was just like, but again, it's like the most standard zombie movie where I would probably watch it again, but it's because it's just like you said, like, there's just something about a zombie movie where you kind of sit there and you're just like, oh my god.
And it's so funny because I think before we watched this movie, even though I wouldn't say this movie is way above middle of the road, we watched like a couple movies before this, and I kind of felt like we were dragging, and we were like, what should we watch now? And watching this kind of re-energized me a little bit. It gave you kind of like this, like, ooh, fun kind of energizing.
There you go, fun. That's a good word, fun.
Cinematography, I don't think they did anything like.
No, it was very generic.
It might even be lower than middle of the road because it seemed low budget at times.
2.5.
Acting.
It was pretty cringe.
The only good actor was the evil nurse lady.
Oh yeah, true. Cause she even like tries to trick the guy where she's like, "You want some of this?"
Oh, I know.
And he's like, maybe."
She's like, "Meet me in this room."
Yeah. Storyline, plot, 2.5.
The zombie design was okay.
Wasn't too bad. Pretty generic. Lots of gore.
Lots.
4. Well, I don't know, because if Terrifier is a 5, I'd say this is like a 3.5.
Yeah, that's fair.
Watchability, standard.
Yeah, because something like this you could watch again, and it'd be like, you don't remember all the kills.
And this is 100% a party movie.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Party movie. The next movie is Noroi, The Curse, Japanese found footage movie that came out in like 2005, 2007. And just like with fucking Lake Mungo, it's on every goddamn list where people will be like, oh my god, scariest movie I've ever seen. And, you know, everything's subjective, of course, but it's just so funny to me when I see a video on YouTube of a guy who's like, oh my god, Lake Mungo is the scariest movie I've ever seen. And it's like, yes, is grief scary? Absolutely. But I really just get pissed off. Again, I mean, I've already talked about Lake Mungo, so I won't yap about it too much. But Lake Mungo wants to be a symbolic grief movie, and then the last 5 fucking seconds slap you over the head with a jump scare ghost. And so I really get annoyed when people are like, oh, Lake Mungo is so scary because it's so subtle. And it's like, it's subtle enough until the end when they want to just be like, oh my god, ooh, creepy ghost. I just still don't understand. And so people will be like, if you like Lake Mungo, you'll love this movie. Because growing up in Japan, I loved watching Japanese ghost show talk shows where they review ghost footage and stuff. So I thought it'd be kind of like that. And in the beginning, it kind of is like that. It's basically they're trying to figure out like some kind of ghost thing. It's like this guy and his like camera guy.
I can't remember why they start on this journey because they start on it before they even interview the little psychic girl who goes missing.
Yeah. Well, because the whole thing from the beginning is like the guy making the movie disappeared and his house burned down and his wife died. And so it's to like, here's how what led up to that.
Yeah.
And it starts off interesting enough where they're kind of interviewing people and people are being kind of weird and subtle things. They actually don't do really anything like the Blair Witch, where it's like, what was that noise? You know, a twig snapped. Later on in the movie, they definitely do that.
Yeah.
But 80% of the movie is just them interviewing people, where you're like, okay, this actually feels real because there actually is no ghost. There's nothing. And then it starts going into like culty stuff and ghosts. Ritual where you are like, oh, that's creepy that they're in this town and they all like do like a creepy ritual of like a ghost of sacrificing dogs.
Yeah. Psychics and curses and even possession, you would say at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this movie tried to do too much, and it didn't do its scares very well. It fell flat.
And it does the thing that I've already mentioned this probably 5 times in one of these parts. It does what every stupid ass found footage movie does, which is nothing happens, and then the last maybe 2 minutes of the movie is like, oh. And that's what I hate again about Lake Mungo, and especially in this movie, is nothing happens until that last tape where they go, here's what happened at the dude's house, and it's like demon face ghost, lady lights herself on fire, he's being thrown around, and you're like,
yeah.
So it's like a nothing, trying to be like, I'm making you uncomfortable slowly, and then they just do the slop horror movie like. I just really hate that. It's like either go with the tone of like real subtle, creepy. They're basically doing the Paranormal Activity, which this was before Paranormal Activity, but it's unsettling, whatever. And at the end, it's like, because they feel like, oh, well, we bored everyone to fucking death. We got to do something.
Yeah, I think they did their best attempt to avoid that by trying to set up people dying in the neighborhood
or going missing.
They tried to, but it just kind of fell flat at the end.
Well, and then it was horrendous CGI, like baby fetuses climbing on, which I was like, this could have been scary.
I think we give them a little credit because it was back in the day, but
yeah, but this is Japan where they did The Grudge practical.
That's true.
They did The Ring practical, and so I was like, you telling me you can't make practical ghost fetuses or whatever? But in my opinion, what would have also been scarier is like if they were just in the woods hearing that eerie baby noise and they're just like, where is it coming from? But it sounds closer and closer and closer, and they're like, because then it just cuts to the next day and I'm like, nothing happened? Nothing that you saw ghost babies, and then it's just next morning.
One thing they also tried to do to kind of, I don't know, tense up that it's like a serious thing happening is this whole village has a bunch of dogs, and when you see a bunch of dead dogs, I was like, "Ooh, okay, we gonna."
Yeah, like the whole village is in on it.
Yeah, is this gonna be scary? But it kind of.
Well, that's what would have been. I mean, it would have been very predictable, but I just kind of felt like it would have been scary if they would have gone back to that town at night, which I guess they kind of did. See the dead dogs. Maybe they walked back into town, and the townspeople are all like standing at their doorway or something.
Yeah.
So, I wanted some creepy imagery like that because they were already going into the whole cult stuff, but you never get to see that creepy ritual town do anything creepy as a town. Yeah. Like the empty man. One of the creepiest shit is when he stumbles upon that weird cult church, and the lights turn off, and you just hear a bunch of footsteps.
Yeah.
Like I wanted something like that.
I just think they tried to do too much. They had the psychic guy covered in tinfoil.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of batshit where it was like hard to follow him a little bit. It was like.
Well, I just kept going, how does he have this huge house?
Yes, yeah, it was like odd. And then they had the psychic little girl, which was a really interesting kind of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But then she goes missing and eventually dies. And then they try to do something where it's like her dad kills her mom while the girl is missing.
Yeah, they do a weird thing where it's like everyone who gets like cursed or something ends up like killing their family or something. And then, they did creepy scenes like when the older girl that they're talking to, who's like, I get these weird premonitions and I can talk to ghosts. They film her sleeping, and she makes those really creepy sounds and keeps making like a chain link thing.
That was kind of
I was like, okay, that's kind of creepy. And then, but this movie also feels like it's 4 hours long. We were watching it, and I'm like, oh my god, how long is this damn movie?
It was too long for what it was.
Cinematography.
They use a lot of like the vibe of the time, like fuzziness, scratching,
Yes.
and like
Yes.
that kind of editing for found footage, which back then it wasn't tired. Now it's tired, and so I feel like we can't fault them too much for that.
I mean, it was standard. They did like the whole fake news interview, like, you know, where it's like, we're gonna see which one of these schoolgirls are a psychic.
I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
funny. It wasn't scary, but it was cool.
It was pretty well done how they did it.
Yeah.
I liked it. Acting seemed fine.
I think the tinfoil psychic guy kind of maybe overdid it a little bit. I think the best actor was actually the main guy who was the documentary guy.
Yeah.
He was very believable.
Yeah.
The other girl, the young woman, she was not very believable. The little girl was really good.
Oh yeah, the psychic girl.
Also, you know who else was really good? The cursed lady.
Yeah, I was gonna say the cursed lady.
She was probably the best actress because she seemed like a real person that like I've met.
And is just annoyed. Yeah. Let's see, 3 scares. I'm gonna give this a 1. Like,
Maybe
okay.
2.
It had creepy moments.
It had build up and creepy moments, and the thing is, it builds up where you're like, all these people have died. Oh my god, what's gonna happen? And then so there are creepy moments, but it's not very scary.
The storyline was kind of cool, where it's like, you know, ancient town that they used to do rituals, but then they built a dam and destroyed it. So the remnants moved and made a new ritual town, and you know they did their ceremony, but it actually worked in reverse and cursed the girl.
Yeah.
I give it 3.5. That's above average.
Yeah. What would the monster be? Like that fetus baby thing they saw in the woods?
Or like the weird-faced boy at the end. It's not really an actual monster. They say it's a demon, but
I'd probably say 2.5. Gore? Is there any gore? Do we see anyone die on screen?
I mean, the lady sets herself on fire. There's a lady who hung herself, but it's not really gore.
I say 2, maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, let's just give it a 2.
I could not sit through this again. No. You can give it a 0.
I couldn't rewatch this, but I could see again if you're like doing like a found footage marathon.
That is true.
Probably.
Yeah,
but I found this incredibly like. And again, it's not like I can't sit through slow-paced movies because I like The Witch. This was just so boring.
I feel like the catch-22 or whatever you'd call it with slow-paced movies is there has to be a payoff. Because if you make us sit through a slow-paced movie...
Well, there has to be a payoff, but don't make the payoff just...
cheap.
You know...
Yeah, exactly. Set it up. If you're going to do it slow-paced, set it up throughout. And so it has a really good payoff at the end. That's the beauty of slow-paced movies.
Because you go... You know, at the beginning, they establish in the Noroi the curse, like, oh, he went missing. Here's what leads up to it. And then they show you, and it's like, well, it still really explains nothing. I already figured that something happens to him where the house burns down, his wife dies, and he goes missing. Is he going to show me how he goes missing? No. I thought it would have been crazy if it was, like, the very end shows, like, he's, like, alive, like, in, like, he's a part of that ritual town now, or something.
Cool. Yeah.
You know, and he's like the new.
Say that they don't find his body.
Yeah, so I was like, do something because the payoff is something I already know.
Yeah, I wish they had done more with the woman who was basically a walking curse that cursed everyone around her.
Yeah,
I think they did too much with the psychics and all that stuff. That cursed lady was such a cool concept because she lived somewhere and her neighbor eventually gets the curse because they were fighting.
But she doesn't die.
Yeah, and then she lives in another place with the mom and the little girl, and they eventually, their house burns down and dies. And so it's like everywhere she went, it was like horrible stuff was following her. I was like, you could do so much with that concept of like a curse following a person or a woman, and they, you know. So, I don't know, I was kind of disappointed with this one.
The next movie is the Poughkeepsie Tapes, which is another found footage mockumentary thing, but this time it's about a serial killer. And of all the found footage ones we watched, I think this was the most tolerable one.
Yeah.
There's really no payoff because they don't, spoilers, they don't catch the killer. But to me, it felt like it, I wouldn't say entertained, but it kept me in the movie where I was like, okay,
So
okay.
here's the thing. I don't think they tell you at the beginning that he's not caught. Like, we don't know he's not caught till the end, right?
Yeah.
So it did. I don't know. Them doing that was really good because the whole time I'm like, he's about to get caught, and maybe at the end we'll get to hear what he had to say or whatever. But
I mean,
don't tell you that.
the biggest downfall for this movie is it's unbelievable to me. I mean, I guess they do say it's like the 80s or whatever, but they imply that he killed like 100 people.
Yeah.
And I just don't believe that. And at one point, he's like walking up to, I mean, I guess it happens, but he's walking up all the way up to someone's house to kidnap a little girl. Grabs her, runs back to the car. And then,
I mean, this being the 80s, I thought that was one of the most believable parts. That shit happened all the time.
yeah, but one guy doing it to like 100 people, I was just like, but you know what? Besides that, my biggest gripe with this movie is the killer himself, where it's like he dresses up as like a Victorian doctor, play doctor, and he's like, I'm whimsical.
He's like really theatrical, and it's like,
yeah,
he's almost cringe, to be honest with you, because they should have made him scary and badass, but he was like cringy nerd. And
yeah.
like,
Well, I felt like it did nothing with it because there wasn't even a time where they were like, oh well, maybe we'll investigate theater kids. Maybe we're close to the killer. Nothing.
Right, yeah.
It was just cringe theater guy to be cringe.
Yeah.
And, you know, whereas you could have made it where it was scary because he actually doesn't say a word.
That's what I think would be scarier.
Yeah, because at one point he kidnaps a girl to be his slave, and it's so cringe how he's like, the master is talking.
Oh, I know.
What do you say to your master? And I was like, this is so cringe.
Okay, but maybe that, to give it some points, maybe that's like what it was trying to do, where it's like you would expect a creepy serial killer to be like, doesn't speak, is like,
but I guess, but they're trying to make it seem like he's this all-time master murderer. But if he's that cringe and needs that much validation, it's almost shocking that they didn't catch him.
Yeah, and another thing I thought was weird was, would it be a red flag in the 80s if someone's buying like billions of VHS tapes?
I know, right?
But I feel like, I don't know, that would kind of give me red flags. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I wasn't there, but...
Well, and then, you know, I did believe, like, he tortured that girl enough where she finally just became his
that was
servant.
believable.
And then they said, like, after he let her go for whatever reason, she just killed herself.
Yeah, because the fucked up part was he was making her do fucked up shit, like kill people,
Yeah.
so she could stay alive. And so you can totally imagine somebody's psyche just like going crazy from that.
I mean, you know, like, there's like the couple that gets murdered, and I just almost was like, I both believe this and don't believe this, that he's just like walking around the house and then kills both of them or kidnaps one or whatever. I guess, yeah.
Oh, that's the main girl.
Yeah. But
I thought one of the creepiest scenes from the serial killer is when the two Girl Scouts come in.
Oh,
that
yeah.
Literally, it kind of upset me, and it was like very like, it felt too real, and I was like, damn, like the way the little girls were acting and talking, they did such a good job. And how he kind of got them to come in, I was like, oh, this is like so real. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It was just like,
well, and they definitely did it. You know, what was interesting but kind of annoying is how even the FBI director is like, well, here's 15 different profile builds, and then each one is completely different.
Oh,
and so he's like, we actually don't know anything about this fucking guy. And then they even accidentally sentenced to death a guy who was wrongly accused.
Well, it wasn't an accident because the killer framed him.
That's true. That's right. But then that's why it confuses me, because like they were saying how the killer was that smart.
Yeah.
He is that smart. But then when you see him in the tapes, he acts like I'm trying to think of the right word here. He acts like a 12-year-old boy who doesn't get what he wants.
Yeah.
And so I'm so confused how someone on tape who acts that dumb, unless they're trying to allude that he could trick them by acting like that on tape so that they would think that, but in reality he's actually calm and collected. But he would film himself being crazy so that they would think he's like, you know, this immature boy, but in reality he's like, oh, I'm playing them.
They did get the tapes after they realized they had wrongly accused that guy.
Yeah, but remember they said that they didn't find the tapes. He gave them the address. That's the whole thing.
I
So
forgot
it
about
could be
that.
that he wanted to throw them off by being like, oh yeah, I'm going to make them think I'm this, mentally disabled, like crazy guy. But in reality, I'm smart. So then they can't guess.
I don't know. It was either that or the way he was two different people at once, like this conniving, calculated person, but also this cringe 12-year-old, like you said. It's almost like he's two different people, so it's hard to make a profile of him because he's like hard to pin down.
Yeah. Overall, not bad. Obviously, in my opinion, a satisfying ending is that they could allude that they're almost on his tail or something. Or, do like a 7 where he just turns himself in, or something where you could at least be like, it's one of the 3 characters or something.
Yeah.
Because they don't catch him, so it's a cool mockumentary thing. But I feel like I would have enjoyed that if it were actually based off like the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
It's so creepy hearing about the Zodiac Killer because they never caught him, and it's real life, and you sit there and go, where could that motherfucker be?
Yeah.
And so
this guy kind of reminded me of the 2 killers where it's like I think his name was like Richard Ng. Do you know what I'm talking about? They would kidnap women and videotape themselves. They would say stuff like this too, like, "We're your masters." So basically, they were like a serial killer team that did this. So they were probably basing it off of them a little bit.
Okay. Again,
they didn't dress up and do theatrical stuff, but they did the whole
just
slave thing.
Since it's a movie, I get less from it because like if this were a real thing and I watched a documentary over some crazy serial killer, I'd be like, wow, that's scary because this is real. Yeah. The fact that it's a movie takes me out of it because then they go, we've never found him, and I'm like, it's just a movie. Cinematography.
Middle of the road. It's a found footage.
Yeah.
I don't think they did anything real crazy.
I thought especially when the parents are talking and stuff, I believed like they were actually in grief and stuff.
I also thought the FBI people seemed very real, like it was a documentary.
The cringe theatrics acting was a bit much for me, but
God.
I'll leave it as a standard.
The serial killer is probably the worst actor in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Even his victims, the little kids and stuff, they were like really good actors.
Yeah. Well, especially those 2 Girl Scout girls. I was like, wow.
That was such a tense
I was
scene.
like, wow. It almost seems like they actually filmed 2 real strange girls and like filmed it like
I feel like we need to look that up because I feel like they may have done that.
Yeah, it was scares.
It's creepy to think of somebody just like you help someone on the side of the road or your children go into somebody's house. And
well, yeah, I mean, he does the thing where obviously you and I were like, we would never. Where he's like, my car died. Can you drive me to this gas station that's in the woods just right over there? Right. And he's got a hammer and he's like, dude.
Yeah, we'd be like, we'll call you, damn police officer, to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, the Girl Scouts' parents were like, yeah, go ahead, and they didn't even tell them. The Girl Scouts told them like, oh yeah, we don't tell our parents where we go.
Yeah.
When we'll come home, and I was like, oh my God.
But they did say they lived nearby.
They did say that.
And so that's why I think he, because I think
he didn't want to do it too close to home.
Yeah, well, but I think that's obviously why he left too, because he's like, oh shit. Those girls might go be like, hey, that guy was really weird, and then more people start investigating.
That could be. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. I don't know.
It doesn't do anything crazy. Well, I will say when he frames the one guy and they set it up like that guy's the killer, that was really interesting. Because I was like, wow, they caught him, but just kidding.
We'll do that.
The monster's the worst part of the...
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, he's really fucked up. I don't know.
Well, but...
He's not scary, like, in the sense of, like...
Fine, standard. One outfit he wears is actually creepy, where it looks like a gas mask. And I was like, okay.
That one's creepy. Gore. Do we see him kill anything?
So there's the one where he kidnaps the lady, and she's got the duct tape, and he starts stabbing her in the neck, and she's bleeding out into the tape. It's like, okay, damn. 2.
Like you said, if you're doing a found footage type thing, it would be a good one to put on that list. But
besides that, maybe we're just not found footage people.
I think that's what it is, because I usually am underwhelmed with those types of movies.
Well, it's because most found footage movies, it's just like, A, why the fuck are you filming? Or B, it's like, it just does nothing.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You and me love the VHS stuff.
That's true.
So that makes no sense.
Probably because with VHS, it's multiple stories in each story. Because they only have like 5 to 10 minutes to tell a story, they get to the fucking point.
That's true. That's one of my biggest complaints with found footage. So found footage too long is a red flag.
Found footage short films are the way to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, I don't remember this whatsoever.
This is the one we went and randomly got at.
Well, I remember that part. I don't remember anything else.
Basically, a husband and wife move into a house that they're going to refurnish and fix up.
Okay.
They meet their neighbors who are very nice.
But awfully creepy.
A little bit. As soon as you meet the neighbors, you're like, they're...
Yeah, okay. So this movie is very much like The Skeleton Key and kind of Get Out.
Yeah.
Where it's basically about...
It's a low-budget version.
Low-budget Skeleton Key, where it's about moving your consciousnness to younger bodies so that you can basically live forever.
Yeah.
But this movie, it's definitely low budget. To me, it just does a horrible job of really explaining what is... Because at one point, when they're... This is a movie I will not rewatch, but I would have to rewatch to fully be like, okay, because they just start going... These kids, these parents, here's their names. This person's actually in this body. This person's, and I was like,
that's so true, yeah.
Wait, what?
And the wife is finding like diary entries from one person, and then they go find the old lady who they think it is, and they're like, no, this is a different person.
Yeah.
It was like kind of.
And then at random, they're like, the little girl saw a sex cult, and here's just this like lady shaking her ass, and they're like fucking while blood is being spilled on them, and I'm like. Is this where the budget went? Like, this is so out of the norm. But it's from the beginning. You're like, okay, yeah, the neighbors are whatever this movie's about. The neighbors are it because
from the first scene,
they're immediately just like, I'm in your house. I made you breakfast, and then the next day they're like in the house again. Like, I made you breakfast again, and you're like, okay, there's something wrong with them.
Yeah. It's a little too obvious.
Well, it's really obvious, and it just does the most annoying ending where it's like, I thought it was just they put their souls into a new body, but they're also fucking unkillable, apparently, because she stabs the lady through the mouth, through the skull, and she somehow lives just long enough to get up, incapacitate the lady, and then put her soul into her. And the guy put his soul right before he died into her unborn baby. And I was like, this is such an eye roll. It's also an eye roll because they do the ending like it's a twist. And I'm like, well, when he goes like, oh, you won't think you get away with it, grabs her belly and does a spell. I'm like, all right, okay. And so then in the ending, when they show the baby, you're like, it's like still trying to be like, guess what? Did you know? And it's like, I already know that. You already showed me that. It should have been more of a surprise that, like, you know, it was like subtle where like they're hanging out and he walks by and goes, oh, sorry, and grabs her stomach and did that or something.
This movie was really boring, but I will say my favorite scene this whole entire movie has nothing to do with horror. It was the scene where the husband finds the what is it, pregnancy.
Oh my.
And they start fighting about like, we just bought this house, we need some time to be happy.
Well, and he's like, I wanted to spend time with just you, bitch.
I know the acting was like ridiculously good for that one scene.
And he's like, I dropped my damn drill in the trash can, and I was digging through the trash can. What the fuck?
When were you gonna tell me about this? And she's all like,
yeah. And when she's like, I just took the test 5 minutes ago. You fuck. He's like, you're a doctor, and you couldn't tell. It's like, I mean, doctors can't fucking read like. You're pregnant.
I get what he's saying though.
I get it, but it's like, okay, dude.
It was so well done.
But I'm also like,
I was falling asleep, and then that scene happened. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, but
drama.
But it's also the dumb logic of he's like, I had unprotected sex with my wife. Oh, what, you're pregnant? How
True.
dare you? And he acts like he's a victim. Like, I had nothing to do with that.
She could have been on birth control and it failed.
I guess, but I'm like, bro, come on, dude.
But it was funny because it was like, I guess the whole premise was too, like, he sacrificed a lot for her to go to med school.
Oh, yeah.
And now she's finally this real, like, wealthy kind of doctor, and he's just fixing up their dream home.
Yeah.
And so I totally get where he's coming from. Like, let's just...
Yeah.
We can't do this right now.
He's like, bro, let's chill.
And she's like, no, we're doing it. And I was like, what?
Yeah, and then they, like, make it up immediately, and he's just like, I'm a dad, woo!
I know, yeah.
And I was like, what happened last night when you're like, no! I want us to go see the world! Like, okay.
That's the best scene in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Everything else was a snooze
The acting
fest.
was the most believable at that part.
Yeah, no, it was a snooze fest. The neighbors were way too obvious. It was just like, convoluted. I would still say the acting is like probably one.
You're right. Only it gets a saving grace of a 1 because of that scene.
Which has nothing to do with the horror of the whole
Yeah.
movie.
Well, and they weirdly do a scene, because for scares, they weirdly do a scene where it's like he's sleeping on the couch, and then like the whole scene's playing, and it turns out there was someone standing in the background the whole time, and you're just like, they do nothing with it.
Yeah.
I was like,
They do like, don't they do like computer glitches where there's like, he's on his computer typing stuff.
yeah,
He's like glitched, but he's already asleep. So.
Yeah. That's right.
That's right. It was not very scary.
It's just a cheap Skeleton Key remake.
Convoluted, so hard to watch.
There you go.
Fair. Yeah. Gore. Is there any gore? At the end when they're all fighting, there's a little stabbing and stuff like that.
True, and then there's the naked lady with the blood all over herself. That still gets a 1. 0.
Yeah, I would not rewatch. It's not even so bad it's good. It's not.
Yeah, it's so bad it's bad. It's a piece of shit. Now this is an interesting one. Gods of the Deep, because this is a legitimate low budget movie.
Yes.
But for a low budget movie, now could it have been better? Absolutely. But for a low budget movie, I was actually entertained, and maybe it's because we watched a piece of shit right before.
Yeah.
But I was pleasantly surprised with what limited money they clearly had. What they did, the acting wasn't too bad except for the main guy. He was like the worst.
Everyone else was great, which is crazy to me. Like, they could not find a better actor for the main character.
Where the whole time he's like, stop!
He's like reading off the teleprompter.
Wait! And he's like, I care about you.
Yeah.
Don't die on me.
And it's so funny because everyone else is so good that he really stands out as bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, and this movie is your most comical Prometheus, Alien. It's basically research team funded by obscure rich old guy goes to the unknown to uncover a secret that old guy actually knew about. It's basically Prometheus.
Yeah.
But they picked the most deep voiced old man where he's just like, sometimes he's like, he's just got that voice, and he's just like, I'm evil. But it's basically a Cthulhu level eldritch horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
They have a practical effect Cthulhu outfit, which is pretty cool, but they don't do anything with it because it shows like their submarine by it, but because you can clearly tell they only made it a top half, it just stands there and goes.
Yeah, they're doing the best.
I know, but it sucks because I was like, man, I would have loved to have seen more of that. I mean, to be fair, that whole movie for Underwater does the same thing, except that Cthulhu monster just sits there. But they do a thing where it's kind of reminiscent of the movie The Thing, where even though they find a dead Cthulhu monster and take a sample, each part of it is like a living cell. So the overall being is dead, but pieces of it still live on. And so you get to see the piece grow in the ship and start messing with people. And there's even like a cosmic being that's kind of like the mind of the Cthulhu monster speaking to people. And it just sucks because this movie could have just been Event Horizon but underwater, which I would have liked because they set up that the alien specimen that they sample they took is growing and driving people crazy. But then there's like this silhouette of like a spaceman talking to people, and I was like, oh, it would have been nice if like the beginning of the movie is them getting the sample, and then the most of the movie is them on the ship, but going crazy, not trusting each other, you know, paranoid, all that, and like what's real, what's not. But they don't really do that.
Yeah.
It just immediately gets to like, we gotta go back up to the surface.
Shit hits the fan immediately after they go underwater.
Yeah,
and
like
then they are just the whole rest of the movie is them trying to get back up.
yeah, because one guy is actually like working for the company and is like, I'm gonna kill everyone and secure the sample.
Yeah.
And then like the main guy and the girl are actually like kind of like in love. She drowns and is like dead for like 15 minutes, and somehow
How did she come back to life? I don't
the
remember.
main guy just is like CPR.
Was there like a whole thing where she got infected or something?
No.
That made no sense.
She falls in the water. The one guy pulls her out, tries to do CPR, and is like, oh shit, she's dead. And then like 10 minutes later, the main character's like, what the? Let me try. And then she's like, bleh, coughs up water. I'm like, she's been dead for like 15 minutes. She should be brain dead.
I thought that was like she got some of that stuff on her, and then because later when she goes back to service, she's basically pregnant and not pregnant.
Well,
but she's like
she gets that stuff on her hands after that, after coming back.
Okay.
That's why it's like, huh, okay.
My biggest complaint of this movie is I think they did a really good job with what they had. The movie felt rushed, even though how long? I don't remember how long it was. 90 minutes.
I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes.
It felt rushed. It felt like we were watching the end, like the turning point of a movie to the end. I feel like I hate when when movies have too much build up that seems like, okay, we didn't need all this, but this had none. This had absolutely none. The only like build up you get is like the guy's dad. You find out the guy's dad was a famous.
Yeah, and actually probably possibly died down there.
And was speaking through one of the beings, but that's kind of the only precursor you get.
Well, they give you no character like growth because they do a whole thing where we've been in training for 8 months. Don't get to see none of that.
And I was like 8 months
later.
And
No team building, so I feel nothing for the characters. And then immediately the mission goes to a failure, and then the rest of the movie is just like, how do we get out of here? And I was like, dang, there's just no really like development or anything. It's just like skip through all that. You just want to see monster shit, and it's like, well, how am I supposed to care for these characters if you're not really showing me anything? Especially at the end when the lady, like, her belly bursts open and it's like tentacles. Yeah. I was like, oh man, well that sucks. But you know, they do the most like contrived, like, I got a son, I'm back on the surface, and I've got to go back to him, so I'm not dying. I was like, I roll.
This movie could have been if they had a bigger budget and they maybe had longer runtime, they could build up the story, the characters.
It should have. I mean, really, because like I didn't really hate the movie Underwater. I just hated how fucking dark it was. But if you would have mixed the movie Underwater and Event Horizon, this is like what I felt this movie should have been.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
But Underwater did a good job of it, and it didn't even do like a long like precursor of character development, but you learn who everyone is as this stuff is happening.
Yes.
So they could have done that.
Yes.
But they didn't. So, but I say that to say all the actors except the main guy still did a pretty damn good job to make you like almost care.
That is true.
Yeah. So the acting was good, but I feel like it's got to get some points taken away for the main guy being
so awful. How do you go, let's find our lead and go, let's just pick the worst guy?
He probably should have been the best actor out of the whole thing, and they didn't do that.
This was a pretty standard one for me. I mean, it's the most generic H.P. Lovecraft shit. 3.
Pretty cool. I liked it.
I'd do that. I do that for them doing the Cthulhu monster and the spaceman silhouette thing for creativity.
What was the gore? One guy gets stuck in that thing filling with water.
Yeah, but you don't even see him die.
No.
I don't think there was anything. No one getting chopped up.
And the lady's stomach burst open. It's maybe a 1.
True.
It didn't look real or bloody though. It was just like the monster coming out.
True.
I don't know if I'd rewatch it. When we have things like Prometheus and like you said.
That's true. Underwater Event Horizon. Pyewacket. Oh, yeah. So this one was made from the person who made The Void, which I love The Void. This is an interesting one. Basically, a girl whose dad died. She lives with her mom. Her mom is like, super depressed, drunk all the time, and then is like really kind of mean to her daughter. And so the daughter's like real goth and like comically goth. Like, I was real emo in high school, and like these kids are like in the movie are like comically like, pentagram everything, and like she's supposed to be emo, but she doesn't really wear makeup. And I was like, that's kind of odd, but they just set up that they're also into like curses and spells and all this bullshit. And finally her mom is like, your face reminds me of your dad. I wish I could wipe it off. And so she just gets so fed up that she goes into the woods and does a curse to summon a demon named Pyewacket. And she's like, kill my mom. And so
she immediately regrets it.
Yeah,
next morning, I think she tries to regrets it.
The next morning she realizes like it was an overstep. But it's too late. And, even a guy in her friend group's like, you're a fucking awful person, because why would you, wish your mom to die? And he's like, I love my mom. And it's like, kind of funny because they're supposed to be these edgy emo kids. And he's like, I love my mom.
Yeah.
But then, I hate that, like, not that I'm saying what she did was right, but, she could have been like, my mom literally said she wished she could, like, wipe my face from the earth.
She didn't defend herself at all.
No.
For her friend group.
And also, it's like, my mom, she's like, she should have said, like, my mom is drunk every fucking night and doesn't give a shit about me, and then always, like, takes it out on me.
Move me away from where I'm most comfortable.
Yeah, and because it's annoying, because her mom is like, I'm going to do things that make me feel better. I don't give a fuck about you. Really? I mean, she's like, I'm going to move to this place because it'll be good for me. And she says us, and it's like, she doesn't even try to talk to her daughter to consider anything. And it just comes off very selfish. Now, does that mean that the daughter should have summoned the Pyewacket demon to kill her mom? Obviously not.
But you can understand a teenage girl who's also dealing with the grief of losing her father.
Yeah.
And now having to deal with her mother, who is not supportive. And
and then even losing her friends and all that.
Yeah. She's not very well adjusted, and
Well, and it's crazy because you're like, what does the mom do for a job? Because she's like, I'm gonna get a second job, but then they're able to buy this nice ass fucking cabin house in the middle of the woods, and I'm like, yo, is this supposed to be modern day? Because how are you affording that? But that's just me being nitpicky. But they do a good job in the beginning of like, I mean, I like the camera work and all that, but like at first when it's like the Pyewacket stuff, I was like, okay, this is creepy, because it's like a shadow in the corner and like legs and arms come out of it.
Yeah.
And then like she hears footsteps above her and there's like weird shit, and then
she starts freaking out slowly, and you start thinking, okay, it's one of those, is this really happening, or is it
well
not?
Yeah, but then her friend who's like, yeah, I'm into weird shit, I'll spend the night, I want to see a ghost, and then she's sleeping. And then the next morning, they're like, where's your friend? And she's in the car, and she's just like, take me home. And this never says what she saw or anything.
That was so annoying. I was like, they need to at least say what happened to her, because we don't see anything.
I mean,
like,
whatever it did to her, she was like completely changed.
Yeah,
but what's interesting is the Pyewacket didn't kill her, because they say the curses, it kills the person that you cursed, and then it kills you. And so it didn't kill the girl, it just wanted to spook her enough to get her out.
Yeah, and the expert that she kind of contacts to ask for more information, like you said, basically said, after the Pyewacket kills the person you sicked it on, it's coming for you, and there's actually nothing you can do at that point. So. And
she tries to reverse the curse, but then
she gets tricked.
Yeah, she gets tricked, and then that's when it's full on. Is like, oh, you don't even know it's real anymore.
Yeah, and I actually thought the trick was kind of cool, because so she's basically expecting her mom to get killed by the Pyewacket. You see her mom's dead body, but the second she's seeing her mom's dead body, she's also seeing a voice call for her that's like her mom's voice. and it's very creepy. But then she also, when she goes home later, the Pyewacket like possesses something that looks like her mom, and kind of like chases
her around
after
the
her, and
house.
it's very scary, and so you're thinking, okay, so the mom is actually dead. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, until the real mom comes home and is like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Whatever.
yeah, but you think this is
Yeah.
also another trick.
Yeah, and so she's so crazy that she douses her mom in gasoline, and the mom's screaming. Very good job. Andrea from The Walking Dead. Screaming. She lights her mom on fire, burns the house down, and then it shows her in a, in like prison, basically, like in an interrogation room, and they're playing the thing where she's like, calling 911, like, my mom's dead, but you can hear the mom in the background going, where are you? Which it was basically implying that it was all a trick. The mom was there looking for her,
Yeah.
but it kept tricking her, and then she killed her real mom. Because the whole thing, also, the guy said is like, what did he say? He basically said something like, in essence, like, the Pyewacket, what is it? It basically alluded that, like, she would end up being the one that kills her mom. I can't remember where in the movie it said that. There was some allude to that. And so it was like I'm sorry. It's because the curse, she wanted her mom to die, and so the Pyewacket made it where she killed her mom.
Okay. I remember the expert saying something like, basically from once you get off this call with me, even though it was kind of like, what is this call real? He's like, basically, since you did that ritual, from then on, everything you see could be fake.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, so they're about to like do a fake, like, the mom's like evil or the mom's not evil or whatever. And so
yeah.
But I didn't remember them alluding to that, so that's interesting.
Yeah, but it was just like the irony of like, she wished for her mom to die, and in the end, she was the one who, and now all her friends are gonna be like, oh yeah, she said she did some spell that she wished her mom would die, and it's like, oh god, you look crazy. Cinematography, I don't remember any special shots.
It's very typical kind of thing. There was not even too many creepy shots, if I remember correctly.
No, there was the first time you see the Pyewacket shadow monster was kind of creepy, but that's about it.
The acting, I don't know, because the girl, even though I think she probably did an okay job, she was being a kind of teenager that's not really like understandable, but she's also in a tough situation, so I don't know. Her and the mom, their characters seemed unbelievable how they were acting, so it's like hard to tell.
Just give it standard.
I don't know if it was super scary. It was like, oh shit, what? Wait, what's real?
Yeah, like, ooh.
Yeah.
Storyline, plot.
Middle of the road. It tried to like, it didn't try. It did good at like,
I guess
up this whole like emotional thing in the background.
Well, I was also shocked where it's like the people who made The Void, where The Void, I mean, you could say it was pretty generic, where it's like cosmic horror, but it was so crazy where by the end you're like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
And so I thought we were going to get a little bit of that, but we really didn't.
You kind of just, you see the black shadow, and then you see the like...
Witch.
The witch that's like upside down running, which is kind of creepy. I'd say 3.5 or maybe 3.
Just give it a 3.
Other than her burning her mom, I don't know if we see anything.
I don't recall.
I don't know if I'd want to watch it
again. 2.
I had to look this one up.
Ghoul, 2015. Hold on, let me try to remember.
It's crazy because this is one of the last ones we watched too, and you don't remember.
Ghoul.
I didn't remember either. I had to Google it.
Let me think.
Let me give you a hint. Found footage.
Okay, hold on. Found footage. Ghoul.
Well, you need to put like a timer edit of like trying to remember this.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the one that we thought was gonna be like Chernobyl Diaries, Because it's in the Ukraine.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I didn't think this was horrible at all. But it does kind of fall flat at the end.
It wasn't horrible, but this is, I've brought it up the conversation again, where it takes a real life thing and then goes like, now it's a fictional thing. They get that real Russian cannibal guy and they're like, it's his ghost. Oh my God, he's coming to kill us. And so, again, it's subjective, but you got to go like, is it cheap because they couldn't think of their own ghost lore? Instead, they were just like, it's the ghost of Anton whatever. Ooh. Yeah. I mean, setting, believable. It felt like they actually, they probably did film in some Romanian, Ukrainian, or whatever, Eastern European town.
I don't know what it was about the place like that area is so scary. Like it's scary.
Yeah,
than, like
scary,
anything.
seems gross. Like, ugh.
It seems like it's got so much history and
Yeah.
lore, and like when the witch is like saying like, this is kind of like how it is here. It's so interesting.
Something that just really frustrates me though with a lot of found footage movies, because again, this fucking movie does it too, is it's like every found footage movie is like, we have to have like one sex, like brief scene or sex scene or topless something. Like this movie just, I mean, they worked it into the movie barely, and then they were just like, sex scene. I'm like, every found footage movie does this.
Yeah, true.
Why? But
I would argue almost every horror movie has to like have some sort of sex scene in
which is annoying. But
it's just how it is.
I was just kind of confused that they were able to travel all the way out here to make like, it's our first documentary, and I'm like, I mean, you must have spent thousands of dollars on equipment and getting out here. And then the tour guide's like, I want an extra $100. And they're like, oh my God, we're going to go bankrupt if we give him this $100. I'm like, where's the logic? Yeah. Did you not have money for food and all that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then, like, yes, they're slowly getting cursed. But what annoyed me also is, in this movie, it makes sense why they have cameras. But then every scene where they're like, what's that? Oh my God, run. It's just...
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what am I even looking at? Yeah. I mean, it's real, yes. But when you do that, it's like, well, now it defeats the purpose of like, I'm more annoyed because, I mean, I'd be annoyed if it was too unrealistic where they're running, but it's like...
Perfect.
But then I'm annoyed that it's so realistic that what are you even showing me? It's 4 minutes of people running around the woods and the camera just...
Yeah.
Where I see nothing. I felt kind of a lot of the actors were dog shit.
To give it one good compliment is I really like the vibe of they're in this dingy place. They have to spend the night because they're waiting for someone, and then they're all like drunk and they do this like, it's almost like when people jokingly are like, let's do the Ouija board. And I love the vibe of like all these buddies and then like the tour guide and the witch there, like kind of like, okay, let's just... The witch didn't want to do it.
Now, I like the aspect of like, they're like, wait, what happened? And then they have to keep looking at their cameras because they're like, we have no recollection of that. So that was pretty neat.
Granted, they were drunk, but it made it seem like they all blacked out and didn't like remember a single thing.
The ending is kind of interesting, but it was just kind of also like...
It's got creepy tunnels.
Okay, so it's like a guy possessed by this real life killer, and he's like impregnating women and having them eat humans so that the soul of that real life killer can be brought back. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, like, I guess.
I like the part where they all start freaking out and they're like, fuck this, we're just gonna leave.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The further they walked, I can't remember what the thing was, but it was like basically because they did that ritual or something.
Yeah, they can't leave.
They can't leave.
Yeah.
And as they started to get further away, they all got really sick, and then they had to literally run back before night.
Well, but some of them have cuts, and the further they got, the more their wounds would start bleeding more. Yeah. So I was like, okay, it's an interesting way to keep, because usually in horror movies, you're like, just fucking leave.
Yes.
This explains...
I thought it was well done where it's like, they would just leave. Like, they were waiting for their friend to come pick them up, but if you were that scared, you would just start walking down the street to a bus stop or whatever, but
and so it's
it
like,
kept them there, so I thought that was well done. I don't know if they really had any cool shots. I guess once they go underground, they're doing the tunnel stuff. It looks very creepy, so maybe that was kind of good. But everything else was pretty middle of the road, cinematography wise.
Yeah, acting, I'd give it to. I just thought it was.
I think it was below average. I feel like what we just said about zombie movies, it does not take much to make a movie like this.
No, because you just have people go.
Yeah, the
They
acting is usually not stellar. So.
Yeah, scares.
I think there was a couple jump scares, but it's like at the end where it's like the thing is running after them and killing them. That kind of sucks. But
very, to me, still very generic, and I felt like it was kind of a cop out to just be like, real life murderer is the ghost in our real history. Give him a point off for that. That's just my personal opinion. The monster antagonist was, again, a fake demon for the movie of a real life killer.
Looked creepy, but pretty average. It just looked like a guy. Gore. I think the only gore happens at the end when he's like.
Yeah, well, there's like one girl that when they're dying, one girl that gets like impaled or like gets like shredded, and you see some guts, and a guy gets a pole through, but that's all you see. Like, it's very limited.
2.
Yeah, sure.
This is like you said before. This is like you watch found footage marathon.
Yeah.
This might be
Fine. I'll give him a 1.
Okay, this is the last one.
Last movie is Azrael, and this was one I kept seeing ads for about a month ago, and decided to finally watch it. Something. Nah, it'll be fine. Something annoying about this movie is that if you don't read the synopsis, the setting they say it is has no meaning unless you read the synopsis. If you didn't read the synopsis, you would have no idea it's the setting that they created, and it could be any fucking setting, whatever. Because you read the synopsis and it says, many years after the rapture. And I guess there's one throwaway sentence in the movie that says it too, many years after the rapture. But they don't really do anything with it, in my personal opinion. It's supposed to be some time after the rapture, and this cult basically cut out their vocal cords so that they can't speak, because it was like speaking in a certain way was a sin. So they believe that's why they didn't get raptured. And then this girl and her boyfriend are trying to leave, and it's kind of like the girl is the main character and her journey of like escaping this cult. And there's some level of metaphorical imagery where it's like inside their church on the walls it shows like a blonde girl in like a fiery watery pit with a bunch of demons surrounding her, and over her is like a big like Baphomet demon thing. No dialogue in the movie except for one guy who speaks Spanish, and there's no subtitles, so I don't know what he's saying. But it's weird because you could say it was low budget, but they were using high definition cameras, and they had, I mean, it all takes place in the woods, but they all had, believable costumes and sets and tents and the monsters. When you read about the rapture, and like the 1,000-year war or whatever, the apocalypse war against heaven and hell, I thought we would get to see a part of that a little bit more, because she meets a survivor who's just a dude driving a truck. So I'm like,
I thought it was almost alluding to like, yes, the rapture happened, but a lot of people live normally still, because there was a radio playing.
Yeah. And he was acting so.
He had a big truck that he could have had. He had to fill with gas.
Well, he seemed so surprised to see like her in this state where he's like, "What the hell?" And so it is almost like The Village, where you're like, "Oh, are they just crazy as fuck in the woods?"
Yeah.
But they're still like normal city people. They're like, "Yo, what the fuck?"
If we never saw the demons running around the forest, I'd be like, I don't think the apocalypse happened at all. But we see the demons.
Well, and there's a whole thing though that they set up with like the demons and stuff, where I'm like, it sounds like they're attracted to blood and sound.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, when they're trying to sacrifice her to the demon, they're all being loud as fuck, making a noise.
Yeah, it's almost like it has to have both, because they were being loud, so it would come over to where they had just cut her. So I don't know.
But yeah, it did bother me that there wasn't dialogue. I mean, she can't talk because it cut out, but Like, they don't even do
You know what? I was thinking about our movie review last year where we did the one for the alien called, what was it called?
No One Will Save You.
That movie did it so well where you don't miss the dialogue. You don't miss like.
Well, it doesn't need it because it's just her running away from aliens.
Yeah, and so there's no moment of like, oh, this is annoying. No one's talking. I feel like 5 minutes into this movie, you're gonna be annoyed that no one's talking.
Well, you're annoyed because they're setting up so many like some kind of like thing, like a really like the hole in the wall, and then the whispers and the pregnant lady and like all this stuff, and the only thing I could take is that there was a premonition that the girl is like actually like Lucifer's right hand man or something, and they expelled her from the church or something. I don't know.
They allude to one of the main ladies attacking her from the village might be her mom.
Yeah, just from her facial expressions.
Yeah.
And so I was like, huh? And
I guess it's kind of interesting that you have to pull so much stuff from yourself to understand the movie sometimes,
but they don't even they don't do sign language. I'm like, they don't even do sign language.
It's hard to believe a whole community is not like.
Yeah, and then they say speaking was a sin, but they'll like whistle songs and stuff. And I'm like, okay. Oh yeah, speaking is a sin, but let's grab our shotguns and kill people. Yeah. That's totally not a sin.
Yeah.
And it obviously kind of annoyed me when they were driving for what felt like 30 minutes with that Mexican guy in the truck. And then somehow, the guy, they were able to get in their car, drive even further ahead of them, and in the dark with a crossbow, no scope, no light, shot the driver through the head. And I was like, this is very like, again, it sounds really nitpicky, but I was like, I've seen how crossbows work, and I'm not saying he couldn't do that, but he had no scope. It's pitch black, no electricity. The car lights are probably shining on you, and you shot that guy through the fucking head perfectly.
You got lucky.
I was just like, okay. And then it's like, dude won't die. Like, gets hit by the car. They're fighting. She's fighting him, and he just won't die.
Yeah,
but I like the, she grabs the magazine, kicks the I can't remember what it's called, the slide, whatever. And then pulls the trigger where it's like this. It was believable. And I was like, oh, damn. Shoots him in the head.
She was really badass, too, because she survived a lot. And she was like, every instance, she was just fighting. She never gave up. And it was kind of interesting to watch her.
And it was believable that she may have not been necessarily smart. But in the moment, it's like, you're so quick to think, like, how could, like, when the demons are coming, and she's like, okay, I have a rope, wrap it around his neck. So it hangs him, and then I fall.
Until we saw the end where she like basically helps the baby kind of be born or whatever, but before that I kept wondering why she was going back to the town.
Yeah,
You idiot, just run away.
Yeah, and then how I took it was that the pregnant lady was evil from the beginning and knew she was going to have like a demon baby. But then it changes at the end where it turns out she didn't know she was going to have a demon baby and kills herself. And so I was almost like, oh, was she being tricked by the demon voices in the wall? And it was actually like the whole irony that like they're super religious, but they were actually being tricked by a demon in the walls.
Whenever I was watching, I interpreted it as she thought she was doing she's about to give birth to the new Jesus.
Yeah.
That's why I interpreted it. And then when it came out, not like that. I don't know. That's interesting. I didn't know if she was being tricked. I kind of thought she just said that she was the pure one who was going to have...
Because they're all for, like, murdering people easily.
They're all for murdering people, and they do a lot to protect that pregnant lady. So, I don't know.
But I also wonder, though, because they emphasize when she's first fighting the pregnant lady, and she scratches the pregnant lady's stomach, and then the demon smells her hand and doesn't attack her. And so it is almost alluding that it's been a demon baby since she was pregnant. That's why I'm like, I think she's actually, they're so stupid that they thought it was the word of God in a church, but it's actually a demon, and it caused her to have a demon baby.
Sense, yeah.
And then that's why they all look stupid.
Yeah.
But they already look stupid when they're like trying to be religious and then outright murdering people.
It has to be that because when she sees the baby, she
yeah,
kills herself. So
yeah,
I was like, okay.
And freaks out.
She didn't know. Yeah.
And then you kind of realize it's the picture on the wall that the blonde girl surrounded by demons is like the new mother of Satan.
The little demon baby looked kind of cool too.
Yeah, true. It's practical effects. It had like 8 eyes and a goat head and.
Very creepy.
Yeah, it was very very
the
creepy.
The demons that chase her are like really cool.
Oh yeah, it's like
demons.
burned people.
They're
yeah,
really cool. I loved it. Probably one of my favorite monsters we saw in this whole movie lineup.
Well, they did a good job where you're like, ugh, God, like, ugh, here they come.
But it did feel like something I've seen before, like redone.
Yeah.
Know?
I wish they would have gone because they kind of do at the end, like the way they walk is very like Silent Hill nurse.
Oh,
I just wish they kind of did more of that.
Well, and then randomly during the day they're slow and like
lethargic.
At night they're like sprinting.
Yeah, because it was almost comical during the day when she's being chased, and it's like
he's like slowly, she's like just slowly walking away. But then at night they can climb trees, they can like do crazy shit. So cinematography.
They did a lot of wide open landscape shots that slowly zooming in. They did a lot of those.
I liked the coloring of everything.
Yeah.
Especially at the end where everything gets real dark and evil looking. I thought it looked cool.
Well, I mean, they did a good job of like nighttime shots where I can still see.
Yes, they did really good on that. At least. I gotta say, the acting has to be good because, or is it easier to not speak? I feel like it's harder to not speak and get this point across, don't you think? Or is it easier to not have to, like, do dialogue?
I think it's actually easier to not do dialogue.
Oh, okay.
Because you don't have to emote words. You emote facially, where you're like...
That's true.
You know, in my personal opinion, I feel like emoting...
Would it be harder to sell if you don't have words, though?
Yes, which this movie, like we just said, I feel like it kind of fails upon because there's a lot where you're like, what?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I can take enough from it, I guess. The survivor speaking Spanish, I feel like they intentionally did that knowing that a majority of audience members may not speak Spanish.
He didn't say much either, so he wasn't like, oh my god, who are you? You know
no,
what I mean? Like,
but it leaves you curious enough where it's like, did they purposely do this against like an American audience or Western audience? Because obviously a lot of people do speak Spanish, but they didn't even add subtitles, so I was like, I kind of would have liked to have seen what he was saying.
Yeah, I think they did it purposefully because we're supposed to be like the girl who doesn't.
Yep, exactly. But I don't know if that girl would, depending on how many years it's been, she might actually not know what any language is.
Yeah.
So,
It's the acting. I don't know, because it's like, I thought I understood everyone's emotions in it without them saying a word. But, like you said, is that easier because they didn't have dialogue? I don't know, so maybe a 3 when it could have been a 4.
I'd say...
Maybe a little above average because when that thing is coming towards them, that is pretty creepy. The demon.
Yeah, and they do pretty good stuff. With those demons, especially like the tree scene where her boyfriend's nailed to the tree.
Yeah,
very tense. And again, I hate because you use the rapture as a setting, and I was like, that would be cool, but they just don't do anything with it.
Well, except for having the demons, and then like.
There is that. I think it would have been interesting for her to have ran into a separate conclave that speaks.
Okay.
And something maybe could have happened with that, but or at least more survivors that speak. Sure.
I think it needs to get some good points on the monster.
Slightly above average.
gore. It's kind of gory.
It's pretty gory. I mean, you see
Especially when
like
she's fighting the pregnant lady.
well
I was
that, but
damn.
like she stabs the guy with the wood thing. The guy's neck gets ripped open. People are getting shot and bleeding out.
Those
And
monsters are like eating people. 4.5, maybe 4.
I'm using Terrifier 2 and 3 as a 5. So I'd say
probably 4 then. Remember how bloody the scene is where they're fighting with the pregnant lady?
Yeah.
I'd watch it again just because it was hard to understand.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty standard where it's curious enough that I'd watch it again. But so now that we're done,
You wanna like rank it and sort it?
yeah, I'm gonna sort it. Which is what here?
Yeah, you can sort it by each category, but if we want to just do overall,
A to Z.
I think A to Z is what you do. Oh no, sorry.
Z to A.
Z to A. Okay, so we can see the top.
Okay, so
Wow.
let's start from the worst.
The worst? Okay, I love that.
And let me zoom out as well,
Yeah.
just to make this a little easier. Okay, so worst movie is Confessional.
And I agree because that's probably the worst movie I've ever seen.
Yeah,
outside
just
of this list.
Yeah. Second to last, Real Evil. Yep. Piece of shit movie.
The only reason Real Evil doesn't have a 0 as well is because we watched Confessional.
Yeah. Restoration. Yep. Don't Look Away. So
okay.
Hellboy the Crooked Man. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Or any
Top
time.
5 worst ones is right here.
Hellboy is in top 5 worst?
Yeah.
I'm actually a little surprised by
Yeah.
that.
Damn.
That seems kind of harsh.
I mean, maybe. Gods of the Deep.
I think we were kind of nice to Gods of the Deep because we love that type of movie.
Yeah. Boogeyman. Ghoul. Lake Mungo. Okay.
Well, Lake of Mungo actually scored that high is shocking.
I know. Watcher. Okay, so these are a lot of the mid movies.
Yeah, there's a lot of mid ones.
Pyewacket, Prom Night.
Howling Man.
So this is when it starts getting to the top tier
Okay,
movies.
let's see the top.
Where's that?
32.
Azrael. So of the top, the first one starts as Azrael.
Did we score that too well?
I don't know.
I enjoyed the monster in it.
Yeah.
But I was very irritated with the no dialogue.
Okay, so the top ones, top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so top 10 at last is VHS Beyond.
I agree.
Tales of Halloween.
Okay.
Haunt.
I loved Haunt. That's probably one of my favorites.
Azrael. His House. The Boogeyman. Terrifier 3. And in the top 3 is Possum in third place. Terrifier 2 in second place. And When Evil Lurks as number 1.
You know what I just realized?
Huh.
Us scoring gore, we don't necessarily love gore, but the gorier the movie, the better it'll score.
It does kind of seem like that.
That probably should be... Next year we'll weight it differently, but... Because that's why all the Terrifiers are at the top.
Oh, I see what you're saying. True, actually. Because, yeah, it got a 5.
I guess that makes it more scary, though. More Halloween, horror.
More Halloween theme, but I wouldn't necessarily say scary.
It's more horrific.
Yeah, it's pretty horrific, but you know, my complaint still with especially Terrifier 3 is that it just kind of did more of the same.
I completely agree with Possum being in the top 3 because
we still think about it.
While it's not the scariest one, I do think about it.
It's so unsettling.
Yeah.
It's so creepy.
If like last year, it would have been what is it called again?
Mad God?
Last year, Mad God was the one I took away thinking about all the time.
Yeah.
And I think Possum will be the one for this year. So.
Yeah.
And When Evil Lurks, I agree. That was probably one of the best ones.
So that is our 32 movies for October. Red and then green. So thank you everyone for watching. That is going to be it. So it's 3 parts, and Smile 2 review will be coming out soon as well. So until next time, I'm out.